So normally I do Why Did I Like It as a podcast, and I stream the video, but today, as it stands, is August 25th, 2023. Yesterday, August 24th, 2023, Windham Rotunda, who's also known as Bray Wyatt, passed away from a heart attack following complications from COVID. This was reported by Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful with the permission of the family. Triple H, with the permission of Mike Rotunda, aka IRS, who is Windham Rotunda's father. He gave his blessing for Triple H to pass on the unfortunate news. Windham Rotunda leaves behind his partner JoJo, his brother Bo Dallas, his father Mike Rotunda, and countless other family members and friends, and 4 young children as well. It's a tragic occurrence for someone who was a creative force unlike any other. And I felt the need to do this video. My heart and thoughts and prayers and everything that could be possibly put into words to say how sorry I am for these people to lose a human being, because that's what, you know, he is first and foremost. Windham Rotunda was a human being. He was a father, he was a brother, he was a son, he was a partner. So everything else, as far as his professional wrestling career, is secondary, because that is what means the most. And I was thinking about referring to him as Bray Wyatt, and I might go back and forth throughout this video, but you know, just it's the person himself is more than a collection of masks and personas and gimmicks, because you can't inhabit these things and get a connection with people, fans, and whoever without being a good person underneath. And I feel like, you know, even with everything, all the smoke and mirrors and how, you know, great Windham Rotunda was at portraying these characters, at the core, there was the heart of somebody who was trying to entertain and connect with people. And so I'll run down Windham Rotunda's career, Bray Wyatt's career, very quickly. I first caught wind of him, just from my perspective, I first caught wind of him during NXT's early days when it was still a game show back in 2010, 2011. His pro was Cody Rhodes, and his name was Husky Harris. And he actually, even further than that, he was in FCW, where he was tag team champions with his brother Bo Dallas, and eventually he's brought up to the NXT roster, where he participated in this game show-like atmosphere of NXT. It was terrible, but there was something about him. And I remember he cut a promo once about boots, and this is all just from memory. And he said he would give them to him by his uncle, and he said, "The devil wears cowboy boots, and now so do I." And he also described himself as a tank with a Ferrari engine. And I remember like just watching him and being like, there's something dope about this dude, to the point of where, you know, I downloaded him as a created character from whatever, you know, wrestling game there was at the time, just because there was something there. And then he eventually would join the new Nexus with CM Punk as the leader. And as WrestleMania drew closer, CM Punk was Randy Orton was punting, kicking in the head all the members of the new Nexus because he was feuding with CM Punk. And I was like, whatever, Mason Ryan went down, David Otunga went down, whatever, who cares? When he punted Husky Harris in the head and took him out of commission, I was like, but it was the best thing that ever happened. Because the Husky Harris character was subsequently retired, and between Husky Harris and what would eventually become known as Bray Wyatt, Windham Rotunda tried different gimmicks like Axel Mulligan. He had something with Eli Cottonwood, who was a former wrestler. He just tried different things, and that would become basically part of the course of the rest of his career. And eventually he re-debuted in NXT, which was no longer a game show. It was now like one of the it wasn't the hottest brand yet, but it was a developmental brand that was put on Hulu and was seen in Europe. And he was joined by the late Brody Lee, aka Luke Harper, and Eric Rowan, and he created a faction known as the Wyatt family. And they were like backwoods, like Waylon Mercy, you know, Max Caddy from Cape Fear, Hawaiian Shirts, cult group, basically. It's the people in the woods where if you take a wrong turn in some southern state and you see somebody who just looks creepy, you don't want to go down that way or ask them for directions, because you don't know what can happen. That was Bray Wyatt, and that was the Wyatt family, and they were amazing. And they had awesome feuds with the Shield. I mean, I know people deride his John Cena feud because John Cena won, but you know, he was constantly there. The family was constantly there, and you know, over time, the family would feud, break up, get back together. They'd add Braun Strowman as the fourth member. They had an awesome feud, in my opinion, with the New Day, where the New Day actually went to the Wyatt compound to face off with them, and Xavier Woods had to overcome his fear of the Wyatt family because the New Day were very joking. And I know I'm leaving out a lot of things and I'm kind of jumping around, but it just, Windham Rotunda's passing, anytime that anybody passes, it's tragic because I always think of their family. His, however, was because he had so much creative flowing through him at all times that it's a shame, of course, because of his family, as I said before, but also because of, like, there was so much more that I know he could have contributed to the wrestling industry and so much that he did already. I mean, it was 2012 till about 2021 when he was released, and in between there were start-stops and everything like that, but Windham Rotunda made the best of every single thing he did. As I said, he had the feud with the New Day. He, you know, basically made the careers of Eric Rowan. You know, I mean, Brody Lee, Luke Harper was already, you know, big on the independent scene, but, you know, Bray Wyatt helped push him with the Wyatt family, and Braun Strowman, I feel like his entire existence is owed to Bray Wyatt. And then, you know, even Windham Rotunda could pivot and, you know, bring other acts into the Wyatt situation, such as when Daniel Bryan joined the family for a little bit and then turned on them, or when Randy Orton joined the family for a little bit and then turned on them, or when Matt Hardy came with his woken Matt Hardy weird gimmick, and of course the one person that he could go against who was equally as out there would be, you know, Bray Wyatt, the character. And so they had their whole feud where they did a cinematic match and it was amazing, in my opinion. And they became a tag team called the Deleters of Worlds because Bray Wyatt's nickname was the Eater of Worlds, and Matt Hardy's thing was to delete people, so the Deleters of Worlds. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. And then we had what, in my opinion, is the peak of Bray Wyatt's creativity. I believe it was the Raw after WrestleMania. I don't remember which one, but these vignettes start airing of like this kids show, and then Bray Wyatt is essentially like a Pee Wee Herman-esque Sesame Street type like kids show host with all these puppets that eventually you'd come to find out, like, you know, represent his psyche. Huskus the Pig Boy was Husky Harris. Sister Abigail was that thing from you know, the Eater of Worlds gimmick, which was that spirit that was always telling him things to do. Sister Abigail, which he would constantly reference when he was the original Bray Wyatt. There was Mercy the Buzzard, which forgot what that represents. Then there was also a Vince McMahon style puppet also that was handing out horrible things constantly and would always kill, Ramblin' Rabbit, which was also one of them. Like, it was always getting killed, which I believe was, like, you know, representing Bray's childlike wonder. The point is, everybody is just blown away by this. Like, I remember when I first saw it, I instantly was like, this is going to be amazing. And what made it even better was that it was so sugary sweet and so happy-go-lucky that the sinister undertones of what would eventually become known as his other character, The Fiend, was incredible. Because The Fiend was a complete 180. This was a demon clown, like, unstoppable horror movie monster with one of the best masks, if not the best mask I've ever seen in professional wrestling. Actually, period. Think about wrestling. I love this mask. And it was incredible. And he committed so much to the character, and just, it was amazing to see in those early stages. I mean, it was, I think around the pandemic time eventually, but it still worked because you'd have like a legend like Mick Foley in the ring. And the way that they would produce the Fiend's segments would be, you'd see the lights start to shut off in the arena. It'd go choo-choo, choo-choo, choo-choo. And in each sound, a segment of the lights around the arena would shut off. And then the legend would look around, or whoever's in the ring would look around, and Bray Wyatt or the Fiend would eventually appear and just murk them. And it was incredible. And the run may have been up and down, you know, with that weird Hell in a Cell where him and Seth Rollins battled, but then it was called off because Seth Rollins used a mallet, which was ridiculous, or even Randy Orton essentially lighting the Fiend on fire and then RKOing him as he was on fire and then beating him clean at WrestleMania after Alexa Bliss, who joined the gimmick. It doesn't even matter. The fact is that we can even say these things. Like, look what I just said. I said he was lit on fire and he was RKO'd by Randy Orton. He was hit with a mallet by, you know, Seth Rollins. Yes, I mean, these things sound ridiculous, but we're talking about a demon clown who would take over a children's show host's soul whenever the children's show host was basically felt like he was losing ground. And he would try to keep the Fiend in, but the Fiend was like this other entity. And it was, I loved it, man. I loved it. I just slapped my leg. That's how much into it I was. Everything Bray Wyatt did, from everything that Windham Rotunda did, from the minute I saw him, I was engulfed in it. I loved it. I could not get enough of it to this day. And then I don't know if this is public knowledge, but I'm a huge classic rock fan. Creedence Clearwater Revival, Jefferson Starship, Jefferson Airplane, Van Halen. Like I'm a massive classic rock fan. And if you ever hung out with me, you'll know that because I'll randomly play, especially in the summertime. So White Rabbit is a song that I've been playing for years. And when Bray Wyatt was eventually released in 2021, he was subsequently rumored to be returning in 2022. And all these teases about the White Rabbit started to play, and I'd see these things online about arenas in between commercial breaks for Monday Night Raw and SmackDown having the White Rabbit play. There'd be QR codes popping on the screen that you had to catch. There was backstage segments with QR codes. It was all very intricate. And it was this campaign, basically, to slowly reveal that Bray Wyatt was coming back. And when he returned, there was a door. It was I think it was Extreme Rules. There was a door that had lights all around it, and he had this Uncle Howdy character that was played by his brother Bo Dallas that was now going to be a part of it. And he had his past gimmicks and his past puppets show up in the audience, and it was incredible. And of course it was, because it was Bray Wyatt once again doing Bray Wyatt things and just being awesome and super creative. This video's already going long, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. But the point is, when he had his last match, which was a Mountain Dew pitch black match, which was it had black lights on it and this glowing paint and everything. I absolutely loved it. And it was divisive or divisive, however you want to say the word, to a lot of the wrestling audience. But I was like, this is Bray Wyatt. At this point, if you're not going to enjoy what he does, then you probably aren't, and that's fine. But I love it. And everybody has their own taste. No judgment, no nothing as far as that's concerned. You do you enjoy whatever it is that you love to do. If we learn anything from Bray Wyatt's life, it's to do whatever it is that you love to do and do it at the highest level possible. Because I genuinely enjoyed everything he did. I loved it. I loved his promos. I loved how out there they were. I loved how unique his presentation was. I loved how whenever Bray Wyatt appeared, whenever Windham Rotunda did something or was going to do something, it was an event. He was often compared to The Undertaker. And the only reason why I didn't really care for that comparison was because Undertaker, while he stuck to, preserving his character and, kept it close to the chest, I feel like based on stories that you'd hear about whether Vince Russo or Vince McMahon or even, Paul Bearer, you would hear of people giving him the gimmick or giving him directions for the gimmick to go in. Now, when he became a biker, I guess that was all him or whatever. But the point is, Bray Wyatt was a creative force behind everything. I mean, Windham Rotunda was a creative force behind everything that the character would eventually become, whether it was The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, whatever it was his idea, it was him, and of course it'd be refined, and of course I'm sure he had input from other people, it was the Wyatt family, whatever it was, but he always seemed to be looking to push to another level, and that creativity is why I was putting together a top 20 list of wrestlers, and of course he was on it. It wasn't even a thought. It was obviously, because anything he did was must-see television, was must-see. Even his tweets or X's or whatever they're called now, people would dissect them. What does he mean here? What is this? What is that? And when I saw on Mustafa Ali's Instagram last night the tribute, I was like, no. I literally shook my head. I was like, no, there's no way. And then once I saw it start to flood my feet, I realized it was true and it was a whole thing. And it was unfortunate because, as I said before, he has a family, he has a wife, he had a partner, he was a son, he was a father, he was a brother, and it's unfortunate that that was the way that things turned out for him. I mean, he's a legend. He's a legend. He'll be in the Hall of Fame. He will be remembered fondly. I mean, he was a creative force, and I feel like he gave other people who may have been tepid about trying certain things in their lives, he gave them this inspiration. That's why Windham Rotunda fans, we are so diehard. And people always wonder why, and I'll tell you exactly why, and it's that reason. It's because you watch somebody who should not have been able to pull off what he pulled off in a major arena on a major television show. That should not have been allowed. Imagine pitching that, any of that stuff. I'm a backwards cultist. I'm gonna be a demon clown. You know what I mean? I'm gonna have a kid show. They'd be like, no, this is wrestling. What are you talking about? But he did it, and he did it well. And, again, all that aside, It's horrible that this young man passed at 36 years old. All my love goes out to everybody who was affected by it, and most importantly, his partner, his family, his close family, and his children.